What was it like growing up as a Gracie in obviously the most notorious family in
Yeah,
Jiu-Jitsu?
it's. I think it's difficult to compare to other families. I think we were not. Let's say we're not a traditional family. That's for sure. And so it's almost like you grow up in an environment there's a lot of mat orientated, always talking about fighting, jiu-jitsu, exchanging techniques. There's a lot always involved in that. And I think we were fortunate enough to have that because it's an amazing lifestyle. It's like, imagine having to go to the office, from 9 to 5, compared to, the life you can have through jiu-jitsu. It's okay. Sometimes regardless of how many classes you teach, but I think the fact that you're passing on something that your knowledge, I think that is one of the best things we can do, to pass on what we have. So teaching it's amazing to see people progressing, when you have your school, to the connection you create with your students. I think that's a very special feeling to have that, So yeah, I think I was very fortunate to be born in this family.
When did you start training Jiu-Jitsu?
I always trained since I was young. Never really serious, as a kid. I think, halls passed when I pretty much was born. So I think that way my father kind of moved away for a few years from Jiu-Jitsu. So, of course I had uncles and, cousins that I trained with, but it's not that I had like a father that has a gym, that consistently takes me to the gym. But, as a kid, you never really took much serious training. I was trained every once in a while when I could. There was some times that, my mom was living not that close from a jiu-jitsu school, so I spent some time not training. I think by the time I was 14, that's when I started taking more seriously. I think, there's that time that you're growing up, suddenly you're no longer like a kid, you're starting to become a teenager. And I went to spend my summer holidays with my uncle Helion in the south of Brazil. And I think that kind of inspired me to, Sunday is like going to the gym every day. I was a bit out of shape. He was incentivizing me to train, to diets. Like, boy, you're Gracie, you're out of shape, go train, exercise. And then I stopped, I kind of did that for, I think it was for about 5 weeks. And when I got back to Rio, I was like, man, I love this. I was like super motivated. I was training, I started losing weight. And that kind of, I think it was the beginning. That's when, the seed was planted. That was like, man, I love this. This is what I want for my life. And then I started training more and more frequently and never stopped.
Once you got serious when you were 14, you came back to Rio and now you're serious about training stuff. Who were you mainly training under at that time?
Gracie Barra with my uncle Carlos Gracie Jr. I think back then, the Gracie Barra was one of the biggest schools you could train with. The amount of black belts, world champions, all level, all belts. It was super competitive academy. So, it was the right environment for me to be able to dedicate and train hard, compete. So I was lucky to train at the academy with such a high level fighters,
What was the training like at that time, that far back? What year would you guess this is?
So I think when I was 15, 2003, so 6, I think 97, something, yeah, so around that. I think 97, I think I was 15, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, 15, 16. And there was, now Jiu-Jitsu is very spread, almost like everyone has your own school. I think back then, there was not that many schools, and everybody used to train at Gracie Barra, at least the main competitors, or they used to have a school not far from, and the main training was always there. And especially like before any major tournament, because most of them were in Rio, so we had people from all over coming to train. So the level was like super high.
Whenever you started getting serious about it and stuff around 14,
yeah.
Were you naturally good at it? Were you kind of, how was that like early on for you?
No, only one was tough because I wasn't training much. I'm out of shape kid. I developed like late, like physically wise. I was never very strong. I was always tall, but not strong for my age. So there was a lot of catching up to do. I think it took me a few years for people really notice that, that I could be something, But back then, no one really believed that I was gonna achieve what I did, Not even my parents, I think, because I remember being 15, 16. I was for me, I was very certain I will be the best in the world. That's what I want. I will train every day. Doesn't matter how long it takes me. I'm in a mission. Who believes me? I mean, it's just a chubby kid telling he's going to be the best in the world, like a 15. It's shut up and train. You'll be smashed by everybody. But I really believe that, and I just kept training. So I think my progress, it was just faster than everybody around me. It's every 6 months, every year. For me, it was like a big jump compared to everybody else I was training. So by the time I was 18 to 19, just before I got my purple belt, 19. But I would say the last 6 months as a blue belt, I was a nightmare for everybody as a blue belt. But that coming from when I got my blue belt to 16, when I was the bottom of the chain as a blue belt, there's in a competitive level, it was people in my weight division, they're always better than me. They always used to beat me up. I used, when you go to the tournament, there's they select the best for each weight division. I was always team B. I was never team A, So, but in 2 years, 2.5 years, I mean, the gap just jumped. Now, I remember being a blue belt and everybody was complaining that my uncle wouldn't give me the purple belt. I'm I was stopping black belts as a blue belt. Not, the black, the competitors, not the world champions of black belt. They used to still beat me, but just them. Everybody else. No one used to smash me anymore. Nobody. And, and then now it's people, wow, he became good super fast. And then I got my purple belt. I spent just 1 year, and then my progress just skyrocketed. Because by the time I got my purple belt, I was already super tough. And then 1 year later, boom, brown belt again. Brown belt, I was like a match for any top black belt.
What do you think it was that was making it where you were progressing?
I think the dedication, and I think the way I train, I was I think I developed a technique because, I see I developed quite late, so I didn't have the physical strength that usually people have, that you can overpower people. I was overpowered by everybody, so I think my technique developed more, so my defense got very well, very, very good because, I was years being tapped by it, by all the top competitors. But, that's how you develop your defense, year on. Then my defense got very good. I really developed my technique because I liked physical strength. And then, by the time I was 20, 21, when suddenly, the physical attributes start coming, I start becoming stronger, but I was already super technical. So I think that's the best combination. I think it's someone that start very strong, he will always use strength, power. So he's not going to develop the technical development. Will always be slower because of his power. He will use power. Someone he doesn't have, like a child, a teenager, when they start. If you want to be really good, you have to start as a teenager because you have no strength. As a kid have no physical power. So it's all technique. If you see kids training, it's pure technique. They have they don't rely on power. So when you develop that first, and then when you add power on top, I mean, that's the best combination.